In that case, I have to thank Kotu.org for all of the amazing advertisement they've given me for this tournament. Awesome. All right, well, let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into round 2. I still have my overlay turned on. Whatever. The game's gonna be loaded soon anyway. Alright. This time, it looks like we're going to see Rails and Metal, and of course, Natural and Beamer are going to be playing as the allies this game. In round 2, you always switch factions. I guess this would be a good time for me to re-explain the rules for those of you who may not be familiar. In round 1, there are 5 maps to choose from. Team A, which is in the top slot of the bracket, chooses the map first, and then Team B chooses their faction. In round 2, factions are switched, and Team B vetoes 2 of the 5 available maps, and then Team A will pick from the remaining 3. And then in round 3, should one be necessary, both teams will veto 1 map each, narrowing it down to just 1 map. Or no, excuse me. First, in round 3, the team with the most remaining victory points picks the faction that they'd like to play as. That's what happens first. Then both teams veto 1 map each, or no, 2 maps each, excuse me, leaving 1 map remaining, and that is the map that round 3 is played on. So that is the structure of the games here. So, I believe Natural and Beamer vetoed 2 maps, and then Lemon and Disillusion picked Rails and Metal for this game, knowing that they would be fighting against the allies. So that may have informed their decision. I certainly don't know which maps were vetoed, but apparently Rails and Metal was left as the most attractive option. Oh geez, Lemon setting up his battle group headquarters really early, and it gets caught by Natural's combat engineers. They're going to immediately move into close range, and he's actually going to get some free damage on there. The Kuba Wagon, though, immediately moving to respond. I don't know why he hopped out of cover. He should have stayed in that green cover. He probably could have gotten this down to 50% HP and gotten a lot of free veterancy on his combat engineers, though. That was definitely a tactical misstep, jumping over that wall. Possibly even a misclick, I'm not sure. That was very lucky, and that's going to keep Lemon's Stern Pioneers occupied for quite some time here in the beginning of the game, as they're forced to repair instead of participate in the engagement for this fuel. Beamer actually getting a quick fighting position up, putting it in range of both the house and the trench. I think if he had put it closer to the house here, then he would be able to take advantage of the Shrek not being able to hit it at such close range in an elevated position, but instead he opted to put it right here. I'm not sure I agree with the positioning, though, because how it's perfectly lined up with this long corridor actually makes it quite vulnerable to a repair attack over here. We will, of course, take note the allies are playing as mixed allies, Axis playing mixed Axis, so all 4 factions will be represented here, and it looks like the allies are struggling to hold on to this fuel point. Those grenadiers may be able to take it before these rifle grenades can force a retreat. We do have another rifleman squad moving up, but we also have more Folks Grenadiers moving in to continue capping. Riflemen will be moving into the area. Folks Grenadier grenade dealing just heavy damage to the rear echelon troops. Inside, unfortunately, Beamer was not quite able to dodge. Natural setting himself up with a scout car over here, grabbing some territory. It looks like Lemon's not really going to make much of an effort to defend the left side fuel. Instead, sort of focusing here on the middle and not getting too far away from his battle group headquarters. Also, of course, helping his teammate take the right side fuel. So that will give Natural control of this left side fuel, at least very briefly. We have an MG42 moving up to prevent harassment, though. Looks like he will get that mine down, but I think Disillusion has probably seen that happening. Of course, if this MG42 is left unsupported in this building, this flamethrower scout car is going to have no problem clearing it out. First burst doesn't do too much, fortunately. So he does have some time to react. Meanwhile, down here, the engagement's going very poorly for Beamer. We actually do see a machine gun upgrade on the fighting position, and it will force those Volks Grenadiers away, but a flamethrower is then moved up to burst that thing down. Some infantry moving up to assist, and if we actually take a look at Beamer's build, I think we'll see three rear echelon troops, which is not something I'm sure I agree with on this particular map. There's not very much map to harass because of its linear nature, which means you can't take advantage of your higher capping power. It looks like he's actually going to be using a lot of munitions here in the early game on things like volley fire and machine gun nest upgrades. That is 100 munitions I've seen spent now on things that are basically gone, that are not upgrades, that will persist on the battlefield. So unfortunately, that's going to mean he's going to kind of struggle to retake this fuel here, I think. Lieutenant hitting the field, and he's moving that up. A grenade going into the house. Heavy damage inflicted.
Enemies are swarming one of our emplacements. Listen up! Reinforcements in. Welcome to the Death Factory, boys. Stick with me and you might just make it.
And it looks like things are cooling down. This tends to actually happen on this map because of its long, narrow nature. Usually once an engagement is lost, there's plenty of time for both sides to repair and regroup. Usually it's just too big for wave after wave to just keep coming. You really have to think carefully about each of your pushes, because if it fails, it could mean you lose map control for several minutes, making your next push that much more difficult. Lemon's Fair HQ actually going up right here in the road. Pretty defensive position, but it will give him, of course, a defense against pushes for this munitions point, as well as the strategic point. And I believe that it's well out of range of anything that could garrison itself in this house. So as long as the Axis can maintain control of this house and not let any AT guns push up beyond this point, that should be perfectly good positioning. I think that that's pretty safe, but also useful, and then it defends the munitions point. So I think that's good truck placement. Could prove very difficult for the Allies to assault that position. We will notice that Beamer's trying to make a push with extremely wounded squads, and it pretty much immediately fails. I really don't think there's any chance that could have gone well, especially without support from his teammate. Squad immediately gets cut down. He didn't have an ambulance purchased yet, instead going for a fast utility car. Unfortunately, now that the Schwer HQ is up, his utility car is going to be denied a very large area of the map. Just goes to show that 7 minutes 30 seconds is way too late to be getting that utility car. He could have had it quite a while ago. It's unfortunate that it's hitting the field so late, and it looks like his charge with those wounded squads just got punished incredibly hard, losing his lieutenant and a full rifle squad on retreat. Looks like he's going to respond to that by picking airborne. And we meanwhile do have a push from Natural here for the right side. It looks like he could get control of the fuel back now that he has these two snipers to push back Lemon's MG34s.
Grab your shit and follow me.
But I feel like his army is very brittle right now. Him using only snipers and combat engineers with flamethrowers. It looks like his scout car, of course, has died. Meanwhile, we see great teamwork and coordination from Lemon and his Illusion, moving together to all points on the map, easily overwhelming their opponents at all locations. The utility car does move up. I don't think Beamer has the munitions for armor skirts. No, he does not, because of how much munitions he spends on volley fire and his machine gun nests. I think he upgraded this one as well, which was probably a mistake up against what he's up against. Generally, if one dies, it's almost certain that the second one will die even faster, because the counters to it will just keep getting more numerous and more powerful, so it's almost pointless to build a second one after the first one's impact has sort of worn off. And I personally think that this is not a very good map to purchase the machine gun upgrade. The 60 munitions can be better spent on other things. I do agree with building the fighting position because the rifle grenades in the trench, as you saw earlier, certainly have a very, very strong benefit, but I think that the benefit of those rifle grenades is actually much higher than the benefit of the machine gun itself. So,
57mm AT gun now deployable by air.
I actually almost think that upgrade's a little overpriced, considering how weak the fighting position is itself. But maybe not, considering the austere bunker costs the same amount and it's similarly fragile. Big push across the road here. That looks is going to definitely dominate the field. We do have an anti-tank line going down from Beamer's utility car. It's always good to see that. I would be surprised if Lemon were to be so aggressive as to chase all the way across across that road. Unfortunately, the utility car's late arrival didn't give it the opportunity to plant a few mines in better positions that could potentially catch these half-tracks. Or that looks. Actually, Lemon is being quite aggressive with his looks. I think that M20 mine planted right here is actually quite likely, even despite its late arrival, so I think he's kind of lucky, actually, that Beamer didn't plant one right there. Beamer getting pushed back by the LMG blob of Grens. We also see a pretty feeble push here by these combat engineers. They're not going to stand much of a chance. Looks is firing. Looks like pretty textbook bait here. Ooh, I thought Lemon was going to fall for it there for a second, but no. He's just going to play it safe. We also note that he's not on the road, and I wonder if he's doing that intentionally. I think he is. I think he is intentionally avoiding the road here. Good for him. Guards are somewhat clumped. Fortunately, the terrain variations save them from any particularly bad damage. And once again, it looks like Natural and Beamer just don't coordinate their pushes as well as they could. It feels like they're kind of going in one at a time. And as a result, it's pretty easy for the Axis to just force them back with their combined might. Looks chasing hard on those snipers, unfortunately. The M20 mine is nowhere in this retreat path. This could be devastating for Natural. We actually do have a Zis gun on the retreat, but it's just not quite in position, and everything goes down. Combat engineer, squad with a flamethrower, 2 snipers, and I honestly think that all of this is going to die as well. Yep, and that's going to be GG, well played, thrown out from Natural. Wishing each other luck in the remainder of the tournament, and that's going to conclude the game. So, wow, what a huge play by Lemon, pretty much just wiping out everything Natural had in one fell swoop. Unfortunately, the anti-tank line was not particularly well positioned, and they just didn't seem like they were quite prepared for that looks, and then due to an unfortunate set of circumstances, it just found an opening and won the game right there. So that was a good game, and that will conclude round 1 for these teams, and I will update the bracket right now.